And welcome back. Today we would like to talk about the hundreds, literally hundreds of pyramids scattered throughout China. More than 100 kilometers outside the ancient city of Xi'an. And this is reported on by the archaeologist.org. So they have great reporting on archaeological finds. If you haven't checked out their site, I suggest you go there. But they are saying that more than 100 kilometers outside the ancient city of Xi'an, among the overgrown forest, rise scores of pyramids that have been shrouded in mystery for thousands of years. And the West didn't learn about them until Fred Mayer Schroeder, an American trader, first reported the enigma way back in 1912. And at the time, he was traveling through the Shaanxi province with a guide, where he recorded a thorough description in his diary, noting he had seen one giant pyramid approximately 1,000 feet tall. 1,000 feet tall. That'd be 10 stories or more. I'll have to figure that one out. And nearly twice that'd be 100 feet a story. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's huge. 1,000 feet tall and nearly twice that size and length, shrouded by a number of smaller pyramids. Now let's 3 decades later, the U.S. Air Force pilot James Gossman, he was left mesmerized by a white structure spotted while flying over Asia, said to be twice the size of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. And he was stating that the remarkable thing was the capstone that apparently was still there at that time was a huge piece of jewel-like material that could have been crystal. So I know a lot of Egyptologists like talking about the gold capstones, but here we have first-hand account flying over desolate forest in unexplored China in the desolate wastelands out there in the middle of nowhere, no man's land, fully intact pyramids with capstones of crystal. And unfortunately, he continues to state that there was no way he could have landed, although he really wanted to. And he was struck by the immensity of the thing. Now, 2 years later, Colonel Maurice Sheehan, the Far East director of the Trans World Airline, reported the same exact thing. So what we find now is, since these early reports first got circulated, China has since removed the crystal, apparently, and has put up boundaries around it and guarded the place with military. They're meticulously patrolling the area, according to reports. And this started back in the early 90s when the German investigator Hartwig Hausdorff, he wanted to search for the massive pyramid for himself, right? He didn't want to go by hearsay. Even though it was a first-hand account, he wanted to see it to believe it. But he was unsuccessful in his findings due to the fact that the Chinese military would not let him nowhere near that area. Now today, Google's Earth will show anyone with the right coordinates evidence of not just one, but around 40 known pyramids in that area. And that's just one area. Google Earth will still show you other areas with the same conglomerate. In other words, these are cities of pyramids. And roughly China overall has a low estimate of over 100 and maybe a middle estimate of upwards of 200. Large pyramids, larger than the ones in Giza. They have covered these pyramids with trees and grass. and many date back 8,000 plus years. They really don't know because they are in fear of testing them and giving out the real results. This region, in essence, is China's version of both Egypt's Giza and the Valley of the Kings in one, particularly because there is a huge amount of royalty rumored to be beneath the surface that no one has disturbed. Now, obviously, that would be the truth, knowing what everyone knows about how far back pyramids really go, at least to the Pleistocene, and I contend prior to. As early as the 17th century, a Roman Jesuit wrote about the pyramids, and in 1785, the French Orientalist and sinologist Joseph de Guignes wrote an essay in which we proved the Chinese are an Egyptian colony. Now, again, these are misnomers based on the fact that the original pyramids were discovered in a place called Egypt, and so therefore they got nomered as Egyptian. And my contention is an obvious, since the pyramids are planet-wide, that obviously we were once a unified planet. We once traveled the entire globe. There was no boundaries. There was no undiscovered continents. These are all fallacies and lies that have been passed down over time because political entities got involved and separated the races and corralled everyone up. And we can get into those discussions later. So Western archaeologists have to this day rarely been permitted to investigate the sites, and some have claimed photos show shrubs have been deliberately planted to keep the secret under wraps. Of course it is. And the reason why is because China is enriched with their own heritage and history. And to lay claim to this, which is not ingrained in that heritage and history, would be hard for them to explain. And that is the biggest reason why all of these secrets are kept secret, mainly. Because it would conflict with what people are already have as their belief systems. And it's not just China. It could be with certain religions. I don't have to mention them by name, but just, supplement any location, whether it be a government, which a lot of places, remember, the religious form is the government. So religion turned into government, and vice versa over time, depending on where you're at on the planet and how you interpret what your controlling factors are. And these forces, which is why Pharaoh, it dates back certain things that we have transcended with written documents that they can see what happened, and that can take us back to Pharaoh. Prior to that, it's hard to get written evidence other than the emerald tablets from Hermes Trismegistus, the tablets of Thoth, and knowledge has been removed and hidden because those that knew it wanted to keep it among themselves. So this is why I hate these misnomers of using these names of civilizations that came way, 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 way after the pyramids were actually built, and what the actual intent and reason and purpose that the pyramids serve, which is obviously to send signals to the moon so that it can keep the moon in orbit, right? So that we can stay in the precession of the 72,888 year, which gives us all of our astrology and astronomy, and gives us the stars, the North Star, all of our, orientation. And if you look back at ancient civilizations, they always say, oh, this was for archaeology or for astrological purposes. They used this to look at the stars. Why do you think that was? It wasn't to study to see where they were at. It was to study the movement to guide the planet, as the moon is the rudder. And they had to make, course alignments along the way to keep this big precession circle the way it needed to be to keep this planet terraformed to sustain human life form. And so this is where the experts of most people are going to be wrong because they're using false knowledge to base their beliefs on. And until people catch up with the premise and real truth that all the pyramids were put here when we seeded this planet with the moon, and the pyramids were put here to monitor the growth of this planet as it is a full living planet growing in real time. And the pyramids to this day are fully functional and still communicating with the moon. So getting back to the ones in China, experts theorize that there are almost certainly lost emperors and artifacts below the mounds that would dwarf Howard Carter's 1922 discovery of Tutankhamun. And in 1974, the world got a peek at a truly extraordinary history of China when two farmers were digging just outside of Xi'an and discovered the famous terracotta army of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. Now, think about that. And also where this was discovered, there is a pyramidal mound by that famous army. And again, it has been covered over with grass and trees, and it looks very nice. So it's just amazing that I understand back in the day why these things were happening. And if you want to understand why the politics are going the way, I don't know what country you live in, or I don't have to know. I can tell you right now, the politics seem pretty chaotic, don't they? And that's because there are people that want to release this. They want to release the alien knowledge and all of these new revelations that we now have. But governments and religions that are tried and true are, want to keep the status quo. And Xi Jinping's government say the technology does not exist yet to disturb the pyramids without damaging their contents. And he cites King Tut's discovery as a reference, and obviously that was a long time ago. So they're not going to touch these things. They're going to leave them under grass and tree and, everything else they planted over them. Obviously not big trees. They don't want any roots to damage them. And they have people on their side backing them up that it's the right thing to do. But think about all the information that we are losing, that we could find out about who we truly are, our true ancestry. And here's another thing. It's not so much that they really want to find out who we are, because obviously the powers that be would know these things, wouldn't they? But it's to keep you from knowing that the people on the other side of the pond are your brothers. And just because they might talk a little different or look a little different, we all came from the same source. We're all the same brethren. And at one point in time, this planet was united in harmony and peace. And the planet was called Atlantis. This is the biggest secret that they're keeping from everybody. One of them, the few that still know. And so they make up theories and illusions about it being an island that got submerged. It's about the entire planet being inundated with one of the earliest floods, when the moon had to recourse and set itself, and the moon controls the waves control the weather, and there was flooding. It's in every civilization's heritage history. Therefore, we are all indigenous. All of us. Every single person on this planet is indigenous. Now, if you want to corral us into some sort of farm, that's on to you. But this is my planet. It's your planet. And it used to be a unified planet. And that's what was taken away from us. Politics goes back way further than people realize. It has more to do with the duopoly monopoly and getting rid of them. And this is not a battle that you win and it's over. It's eternal for all of continuum. And they're not playing fair because they're withholding knowledge from the people across this entire planet. And I don't think they're doing it deliberately. I really think most of them just don't know. And they don't know what to do with it, so they go with the status quo of, well, since no one knows, let's just keep it hidden until we can figure all this out. Well, it's time we started having real debates about what all of this really means. The pyramids belong to all of us. We are all indigenous, and the moon is ours. It's what seeded this planet and terraformed it, and is still terraforming it, creating all of the, yes, you know it, that we experience today. All right, guys, I got another one coming up soon, so stay tuned. There's some huge pyramids in Russia, and we will be getting into that one next.
Can you hear me? Over.